The Minnesota Timberwolves aren't just a feel-good story anymore. They've quietly turned into one of the most consistently dangerous playoff teams in the NBA over the last 3 years. After making back-to-back conference finals appearances in 2024 and 2025, they're once again putting themselves in position to make another deep run. And honestly, what's most impressive isn't just that they're winning, it's how they're doing it. Take their first round series against the Denver Nuggets. On paper, that's a nightmare matchup. You're dealing with Nikola Jokic, one of the most efficient and intelligent offensive players the league has ever seen. Most teams spend an entire series just trying to survive him, but Minnesota didn't just survive, they controlled the series and won it in 6 games. A huge part of that comes down to defense, specifically Rudy Gobert. He's always been known as an elite rim protector, but in this series, he showed how valuable he is in a matchup against a player like Jokic. You're never going to completely shut Jokic down, that's unrealistic, but the Timberwolves made him work for everything. They disrupted his rhythm, took away easy shots, and forced him into less efficient scoring nights than he's used to. That's a win in itself, but it wasn't just Rudy Gobert. The whole team bought into a physical, high pressure defensive identity. They were aggressive on ball handlers, constantly applying pressure and making Denver uncomfortable. That kind of defense wears teams down over a series. You could see it in the results. Holding a team like the Nuggets under 100 points in 3 games out of 6, that's not luck, that's discipline and effort. What really stands out though is how the Minnesota Timberwolves didn't have to lean entirely on their superstar to get it done. Anthony Edwards, he was clearly the face of the franchise, but he missed time during the series and the team didn't fall apart. Guys like Jenny McDaniels stepped up in a big way. He's always been known as a defensive guy, but when he adds scoring into the mix, he becomes a serious problem for opponents. Then you've got Ayo stepping in and contributing meaningful minutes. It wasn't just one or two players carrying the load, this was a full team effort. That's what separates good teams from great ones in the playoffs. When defenses lock in and take away your first option, you need other guys who can step up without hesitation. The Timberwolves showed that they have that. The ball moved, possessions were shared, and the offense didn't feel predictable. That balance makes them much harder to stop, harder to defend. Fast forward to the semifinals, and game one against the San Antonio Spurs gave us another glimpse of what this team is capable of. For most of the game, it wasn't pretty. The Spurs actually outplayed Minnesota through the first 3 quarters. They were sharper, more efficient, and looked like the better team for long stretches. But the Timberwolves never let the game get out of reach. That's something great teams do. They hang around even when they're not playing their very best. They stayed within striking distance, and when the fourth quarter came around, they flipped the switch. That fourth quarter was so dominant for the Timberwolves, scoring 35 points while shooting over 70% isn't just a hot streak, it's execution at the highest possible level. Everything clicked. The ball movement improved, shot selection got cleaner, and the energy wrapped up on both ends of the floor. Anthony Edwards, even if he wasn't 100%, showed exactly why he's a superstar in those moments. He didn't need to dominate the entire game. He just needed to take over when it mattered most. That's a different level of maturity compared to earlier in his career. And then there's the matchup with Victor Wembanyama. That's one of the most fascinating parts of this series. Victor Wembanyama, he is a generational talent, especially on the defensive side. But Minnesota made a clear effort to take him out of his comfort zone on the offensive side. They were physical with him, pushed him off his spots, and didn't allow easy touches in the paint. Instead of letting him get into a rhythm, they forced him into contested looks. That's exactly what you want against a player like that. Make him work, make him uncomfortable, and don't let him dictate the game. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, this Timberwolves team checks a lot of boxes. They have elite defense anchored by Rudy Gobert. They have a go-to scorer, specifically Anthony Edwards, who can take over late in games or whenever. They have depth with multiple players capable of stepping up on any given night, and maybe most importantly, they have an identity. They know how they want to play: physical, defensive minded, and unselfish on offense. That kind of clarity becomes a huge advantage in the playoffs, where games slow down and every possession matters more. If they keep playing like this, how they're playing, another trip to the Western Conference Finals feels very possible, very realistic. And honestly, it might not stop there. They're not just sneaking up on teams anymore, they're proven they belong in that top tier. So that'll be it for this video. Leave a comment, tell me what you think. I much appreciate it if you click that like button. Thank you for watching.